I was out surfing one day and I was just kind of like, what do I want in life? And I knew all I wanted was to be a good father and a good husband. And I knew that if I just took a plea or, did community control like here in this area, that I'd keep bartending and continue to self-destruct, and ultimately that would never, be accomplished. So made the decision to go to a Department of Corrections funded year-long treatment program in Ocala. And while I was there, it was really funny because my therapist used the word alcoholic, and I just looked at him and I was like, I'm not an alcoholic. And he's like, well, you're in severe denial. He's like, what would you're here for DUIs. Like, what else, So essentially, I was like, listen, man, I've never had like an issue with alcohol. Like, I have trauma, I have depression, I hate myself, like self-harm, guilt, shame, and those are the things that have led me to self-destruct. And alcohol is just a byproduct of that. So in that moment, he completely changed his affect and just, for the rest of my time there, he said, what do you want to work on? And I said, I want to work on my mental health. Like, I want to learn to love myself again. I want to not be depressed. I want to forgive myself. I want to live a happy, healthy, emotionally and mentally sound, productive life. From that time on, he worked with me from that perspective. So he never mentioned the word alcoholic, addict. We talked about trauma. We talked about, the 7 stages of grief. We talked about, what comes along with depression and maladaptive coping, and and how community affects our lives and having good people around you. And that all really resonated with me. So, I continued to work on those things. And when I completed treatment there, I ended up staying in that area. And while I was in treatment, I started going to school at the local community college. If you had a high school diploma, they had a program where you could go into the local community college. So I started working on my associates in psychology. When I got out, I decided to stay in that area and continue with school. Eventually graduated with an AA in psychology and was applying to St. Leo University for a bachelor's in psychology and human services. During that time, I was just wrapping up some probation, ended up coming home to see, some people that are the closest I have to family, and ended up catching a technical violation of probation for being out of the county without permission. Stayed in jail on no bond and went to court. The state wanted 5 years prison, and I was like, nope. Fired my attorney and just, begged the judge for mercy, and the judge ultimately said, you've come a long way, but you still don't know how to follow directions. So he said, I think 5 years is a little excessive for everything that you've accomplished, but I'm gonna order you to a year and a day in the Florida Department of Corrections, where you will either go and, continue down the path you're on, and I'll see you back here again, and next time I will sentence you for 5 years, or you'll get your game time, you'll get out as quick as possible, and you'll go right back to the good you were doing. And maybe I'll see you in another capacity someday. So right then I was like, well, run it, so went and did a year, 9.5 months on a year in the Florida Department of Corrections prison system. Got out, went right back to school, completed a bachelor's in psychology and a bachelor's in human services. For my bachelor's in human services, I needed an internship, and I was so, my felony was so close to the internship that it impacted me still. So I called the facility that I went to, and my old counselor had become the clinical director. So he remembered me and he said, hey, come up, fill out an application, we'll see if we can get you in. So they were able to kind of push me through, and I started my internship with the Phoenix House in Ocala. And then 2 weeks before graduating with my bachelor's, they hired me on as a bachelor's level therapist in their self-pay insurance funded unit, which was just awesome.